Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wastelander, an ATF podcast. I'm your host, Outlawful, aka Easternly, aka Wastelander. And we got Filthy Moose here as my co-host, and Mello couldn't join us today. Take it away, Moose.
And we have Measurehead here. He owns Anomaly. Vigilance works for AA and Sphinx. Willnet has his own group, the Blissfully Unaware, and Walker is a head texture maker for Retextures TM. To start off, how and when did you guys get into clothing making? And we'll start with Measurehead.
I got into it back in 2014.
Dear
Back
God.
then, yeah, like a lot of that, it was more competitive because there weren't asset packs around. You had one person who gave you a tiny little thing, maybe 15 really old assets from like 2009, and then you had to make do with it.
Didn't you have to like draw your own assets and all that?
Steal them a lot more. That's what people. Everybody was a thief back then.
And now you got all those asset packs. You could just get them and just drag them and drop them wherever you want.
Definitely a lot more accessible for people.
That's true. That's true. What about you, Vigilance? How'd you go? Like, when and how did you start making clothes?
I want to say like 2 years ago, I started to just kind of pick it up because as you join more and more groups and after the Flash, you kind of started to. I didn't have the money to pay for customs, so
Yeah.
I was like, well, screw it, I'll try and learn. And it was really rough, honestly, trying to pick it up. And I guess I'm a lot more of a new wave creator. I'm not like Skelethon. I didn't start till probably 2018. And this maybe just a couple months of really bad clothing making, and then I quit. I was like, screw this, I can't figure it out. And then I came back and gave it another shot, and well, here I am.
What about you on that?
I started making really bad outfits for an old YouTube channel I used to run back in 2016.
Oh shit! And then Walker, when did you start texture designing and all that, and like what got you into it?
Mine's significantly less exciting. Ages back, I can't even tell you when, but I was just walking around ATF and I found someone with a retexture, asked about it, found retextures, and then I just kind of decided to try it out and stuck with it.
Has working for like your clothing groups or like all the clothing groups you guys are in and for Walker retextures, like has that affected any way how you guys like play ATF? Or I know Measurehead, you're not really into ATF, but like has it affected any other games you guys have played that you make clothing for or textures for?
Not really, no. Most of it's just developing for anyone.
What about you, Vigilance?
I'll be honest, I think for at least ATF, it's actually been kind of interesting because I guess there's two sides of it. One, I get to see people wearing outfits I've made for like AAA. I get to like watch them wear my hard work around, and it's a good feeling to know that people are actually enjoying what you're creating. Like you're not just making it custom for yourself to kind of like get that satisfaction, but I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's a good feeling seeing people actually enjoy the clothing that I make. It's not just me. And then on the other side, I don't want to call it recognition, but I do have a lot of people come up to me and say like, "Oh, like, did you make that yourself, or like, is that a custom?" Or having them ask you for commissions. It kind of changes the way you play ATF because people do come up to you. I'm sure Will could also definitely touch on this. Like, he's a bit, especially Skelethon. I'm sure if Skelethon came back and played ATF, he'd have a lot of people flocking to him to try and talk to him and figure out if they could get custom from him. But you do get people coming up saying, "Oh, I like your clothes," or "I've seen your uniforms," stuff like that.
That's a good insight.
You got stalkers, Willnet?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Will, did working at your clothing group that you own, did it affect how you played ATF at all, or any other games you made clothing for?
No, not really. Vigilance summed it up pretty well.
Besides the stalkers, you just get a lot of those.
Yeah.
Damn. What about you, Walker? For like working at Retextures and making textures for ATF, did that affect any way how you played the games?
Actually, it changed a lot for me. Walking around ATF, I found people wearing retextures, and that just kind of opened my eyes because it really made me think that all these things are made by people and they're a lot more in depth, and I see different skill levels, and it's just neat to see them, especially when I see people using my own retextures. That just feels cool, and it still does.
Yeah.
But altogether, working at retextures has changed a lot due to the people I met.
Yeah, Retextures has definitely grown as a server from when He Who Shall Not Be Named owned it to, now it's much bigger. I mean, I was just looking at the server right now. I just tapped out and looked at it. It's got like twice the amount of channels. It's way cleaner. The staff isn't as, strict as it used to be. It's overall a fun server to talk in. I've had some fun in it. What?
All right, don't toot me and Walker's horn too much now.
No, we're just it's your staff team that I'm tooting their horn. They seem like really good people.
God bless. Thank you.
So, what is your favorite thing about working at your guys' clothing groups? Like, is there anything specific?
So for me, since it's mostly a one-person group, it's just the freedom of it. I could just do whatever I want whenever I want. You don't have somebody on your back to get you to do something. And if you want to go off into different directions, try something new, you're avoiding criticism of people. It's easier to move on your own way instead of having to cater to a certain group of people or to a certain genre.
Wow, that's a really good insight. I can see why you like to work for yourself more.
Be your own boss.
It used to be a duo. Me and an old friend of mine, Melnick. We used to do a lot of clothing together. He and I are still friends, but he just ended up quitting. It's still that sort of thing where if it's one or two people, you just either develop together and you're just moving wherever you want to do, whatever interests you have together, whatever things you've been doing lately, they always go into your clothing. But it's just how it is. A lot more freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I guess on the flip side of that, working for AAA, especially, and Sphinx, it's kind of opened my eyes to like how I can become a better designer. Like, because everyone, I think before I started actually working for actual clothing companies, I used to think I was pretty decent at what I was doing. But it's a pretty humbling experience to have a lot of guys who've been in the game longer than you and have been doing it longer than you to kind of give you that insight into what exactly you're missing and help you improve as a designer. And so I know especially Sphinx has been huge for me, like kind of like learning like these small details and small mistakes that I keep making and how like I can correct those. But like Skelethon said, it's on the same note, I do have people like I got quotas to meet and I have outfits I have to make and they have to fit certain themes and I've got people to please. So there isn't as much freedom, as designing on your own. But I mean, for where I am, I guess at my point, and I'm using air quotes when I say this in my career of clothing designing, I think it's pretty good for me. I'm getting lots of good, criticism and feedback from people like Israeli and Will and Kenny and everyone, the whole 9 yards. So it's been great.
Awesome. Will, do you have anything to add on to that?
Difference between having to make outfits for other people and then making everything yourself, for me at least.
Yeah, you guys all had really good answers. That really gives me a lot of insight into the clothing industry that I didn't have before.
What about you, Walker? What's your favorite thing about making textures for retextures?
Honestly, I think my favorite thing is just the ability to pump out whatever you want. You can make practically whatever you want with little to no restrictions.
Yeah, that sounds
God
like a lot
bless.
of fun. So this is for everybody again. What genre of games do you enjoy creating clothing or textures for the most, and why do you like it that?
I sort of made this point like last question, but it's mostly any genre. Anything that I see interest in or that provides me a challenge, it's something that I want to do. Something that comes from a genre I've never been into, but I've just gotten interested in and is super complex I want to do. Because it's a lot more challenging. It pushes me to do better.
You don't just take assets and toss them together and call it an outfit. You challenge yourself. I like that.
Almost every outfit I make nowadays, I draw every asset on.
That's
Jeez. I look. I'm gonna be honest. I look at some of the outfits. I'm like, how the fuck did he draw that? It looks really good. But I like the aspect of challenging yourself because some people just stay in their comfort zone. They just make what they think they can do. But like challenging yourself allows you to improve and get better at what you do ultimately.
It's a hobby for everyone though, man. Like even if it's something where you just want to hop on, make a quick outfit or something, you don't really want to draw. It's certainly there's something in it for everybody, at least with the artistic side of it.
Technically, we're artisans, not artists.
Do either of you guys have any insight on that question? What genre you like to create for, or is it more similar to Measurehead's answer?
I guess I could give an answer. I've found like over time, your palette for like what you want to make kind of expands as you try more and more different like genres in time periods. And I know Will has been making a lot of Western stuff lately, and I've seen Skelethon made a really great,
Under contract.
really great Vietnam outfit for the Sphinx competition. So it's like you kind of see more and more genres, and sometimes you want to try them, and sometimes you don't. And for me, I think what I kind of found my not my niche in, but just kind of something I really enjoy is probably tactical clothing, just modern tactical with Sphinx especially. So that's kind of where I've started to find a bit more of my stride. But I mean, it's different for everyone, I guess.
Oh yeah.
For Skelethon, he could probably make whatever he wanted and enjoy it. And Will, how many genres have you made clothes for?
Let me check. First one in this Discord server, I think, is Fallout. The newest one is post-apocalyptic. But there's like World War I, World War II in here. There's Fireland. There's Metro.
He's got more genres than there are pages in my geometry book.
There's a few elite skins from Rainbow Six in here.
I saw you doing some Korean War shit too recently.
Yeah, I did one Korean outfit, I think. I did do some like post-apocalyptic Gulf War surplus stuff though.
I can still remember Will chastising me for using a Metro backpack with a set of just regular post-apocalyptic clothing. My bad, Will. That's on me.
It's like there's this whole little subculture of ATFers here on this in this clothing industry. It's really interesting to see how you guys all interact with each other.
So, Skilly, rate my newest post-apocalyptic outfit.
I'm looking at the rest of it, but that fucking belt buckle makes me sick. Something about it, man. I opened it and that's the first thing I saw was just that fucking...
What, you don't like the silver, the shining silver on the brown? You don't like that?
Dude, it looks like a tiny flip phone.
Damn.
Oh my gosh, he's right.
Tiny flip phone. I can kind of see it. I can
It's
kind
like
of see it.
Nokia.
Tactical belt flip phone.
I don't know. It's how it looks in real life, though.
I
don't know why it's like
I think it's
that.
just the aura shading that you did on it.
Indestructible Nokia.
Probably. It's also the wrong color. It's more of a grayish silver, not a bright, blinding
Well,
silver.
it starts bright. Hold on. Let me open paint on that.
I mean, I don't really know much about clothing making, but like everything else looks really good on that outfit.
Oh, you want to see the hell I'm working on right this second?
Sure. Strap hell, man.
Oh, this is neat, but it looks painful to
You got all
wear.
the strap. Looks kind of cool though.
We gotta stick with that Mad Max deal, you know?
Yeah. So the next question we got is if you guys have any complaints about the clothing industry. And Skelethon, you okay if we start with you?
Oh, sure. I think
Alrighty.
I have a lot of complaints. I'm a person who complains, but the biggest thing that I see recently is there's just a lot of the elitism that used to be there when this first started, like at least within the subgenre of ATF's hardline community, because that's where this all spawns from. The elitism that was first there when it was 4 or 5 clothing creators that had all the assets and everybody else who was just scavenging around. It's starting to come back, but it's weird. There are so many people with access to so many things, but their perspective on clothing is still elitist, that nobody can create things a certain way, that they have to be done in a specific manner. And I'm guilty of that too, but it's just...
I think everybody is.
It's not good to see such an unhealthy environment for clothing and for creators, especially new ones. Especially people who picked up an asset pack 2 or 3 months ago, made 4 or 5 outfits, and then they're criticizing somebody who's been doing it longer but has a different style.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to is style.
There's a big issue within clothing where people will look at style and not be able to objectively critique something for its issues. So seeing line work and seeing issues with it where it's bumpy or where it looks uneven, people won't criticize that. They'll criticize that pattern's fucking ugly. They'll go on some rant about how, oh, well, that's not how it would have historically been. And it's limiting to a lot of new creators.
I agree. I mean, like if you've been making it for a while and like you said, like people that just picked it up like a few months ago, and then they're like critiquing like people that have been doing it for longer. Like what the hell?
I got Vigor's here.
We got another surprise special guest. I_Vaporwave. Hello, buddy. How you doing?
Yeah, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Vigilance. What complaints do you have about the clothing industry on Roblox?
It's kind of hard to top what I guess Skelethon kind of said, because I think he gave a really unique response. But I think if I had to critique anything, it would definitely have to be kind of how the clothing community not only treats new creators, but like how hard it is to kind of survive the first few months of trying to like to go from not knowing anything to being able to make an outfit that'll pass like a clothing like an inspection. So like if you like a faction custom, like to get from the starting with no knowledge to getting to like getting your faction custom approved, it's like a long road, especially if you have no idea what you're doing. Like I had zero fucking clue when I started, and so when I attempted to make my first asset, I got a lot of unhelpful criticism of just people just ripping apart the outfit but not giving anything like helpful, like what to fix, or just like that looks ugly. And it's like, okay, thank you, but how do I move forward? And then I guess the other critique I'd have is that, and I am guilty of this, but I'm trying to get out of it, is a lot of people, everyone just uses like Imado's pack 3, even though it's been sealed and you can't get it anymore. It's basically just everyone in the ATF community uses the same clothing packs, so you see the same assets used over and over again, beat to death, because no one knows how to draw their own assets to save their lives. It's the
Not even
same.
ATF anymore, too.
Yeah, it's just like no one, since there's so many
God.
assets.
Whoops, I was doing something.
Legokex, hello.
Hello.
Welcome. You work for AA, correct?
Yeah.
God bless, God bless. We were Vigilance was just talking about like clothing complaints of the clothing industry. That's the question we're on.
Vigilant, can I just throw on something? That goes into, there's a Star Wars roleplay group that is now using assets that are, I saw virtual uncertainties maneuver gear used on clone armor.
That
But
sounds objectively disgusting.
It is.
Simply just because it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
And
yikes.
that just
I've
ties
also seen,
into
like, my post-apocalyptic assets getting used in Western outfits, in Vietnam assets being used on Western outfits.
It's really an issue more so that spawns from people not having the same innovative techniques.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
clothing was first starting and there was a lot less creators, you had people who had to go out and try new things, who had to develop new ideas. Because had we not had people like Softliners who came along, you wouldn't have hardline with stitching. You'd have hardline that was just hardline. Because that's what it was. For 2 or 3 years, that was hardline. Then the stitching was just single transparent lines, and then it became more and more complex. But now that you have so many widely available asset packs, it's a gift and a curse. You have more people getting into it, but a lot of those people do it for quick change, quick turnover, and for friends. Less so than they enjoy doing it and they want to innovate. And it leads to a lot more clouding of the industry.
The other one is it's very cutthroat for new creators, kind of like what Vigil was kind of say. I think the big reason it's a problem is because there's no longer groups teaching people how to make outfits. Like when I got into making hardline outfits, I joined Gabs and they taught me basically how to make outfits. But like AA doesn't do that anymore. Gabs is basically just there to make money. I don't think any other groups they're like that. They're big. Don't teach anybody anymore.
Before I ended up starting working, I had a systematis, and that's where I was trying to teach people. But it's a difficult thing. You have a lot of people who come into clothing with a certain idea of what they want to do. And if you can't cater to them or you can't work with them, they end up, it just is a negative relationship. You can't teach somebody who doesn't want to learn a certain style. It's very much a creator-student situation where they need to work together.
Personally, I learned off Will and we learned off each other. We bounced back off each other a lot.
Yeah, we basically have the same style now. Just I do different line work than you.
Vaporwave, you don't work for anyone, right? You kind of do your own thing, make your own clothes.
I used to work for AAA. I used to work for Gabs, and I sort of own my own group, but I really don't do it for the profit. I just do it to make stuff and make assets. I've never had a real goal to make money with it, because that's what I do for deving.
You also worked for TBU.1, the original TBU.
Crimson Coats.
Do you have any complaints on the clothing industry, Vaporwave?
It's just fast fashion things that people do in quick money grabs on different topics. But I think we all knew that.
Yeah. What about you, legokex? Do you have any complaints that you have on the clothing industry?
this isn't a complaint more on the industry, it's a complaint more on how people view other people's things, which can be viewed as something as an industry, because since it's more made off of what people make. If you make something that someone doesn't like, they will just trash on it. You make something that somebody doesn't like, and you're trying to show it, a lot of the time you won't get criticism. You'll just get, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. And it just doesn't work. It doesn't help you get better. It just makes you not want to do it anymore. Or it just makes you not like that person or not like what they do. And so criticism and all that shit is probably one of the biggest things that's actually needed. Genuine criticism and trying to help people improve instead of just trashing on it, you know?
Yeah, like constructive criticism kind of and feedback so they can improve. You're a designer for AAA, or you're like one of the like managers there?
I'm a GFX coordinator for AA, which is pretty much just, so I take applications and I do a few other things that normal GFX staff don't.
Basically what I did. They also own and work for Fennec Fox.
Yeah, that's actually where I started clothing. I started completely on my own, and a friend and I started a group, and that's where I started working up. And then I partnered with Alexei Korodvi's group, and then that's how I met Will, and then I started, yeah, whatever, and that's where I met Will, and that's where I started actually improving a lot, because I started more looking at what Will was doing and sort of trying to base a lot of things off that and trying to improve off that.
It all kind of stems from Magdump, because I kind of stole his style with the way I do shading.
It was Will, Realaden, and Itmatab. All the four of us are the people who basically. That's where I got everything from. That's how I got here today.
You know, it's definitely, for me, it's definitely you and Louie that got me here.
Oh, Lou too. Lou is another big part.
Yeah, Lewis is a pretty cool person.
Lou was around for a long time. Longer than me.
He's still around.
He's done some clothes for some really big people.
I mean, the stuff he did for Red Raccoon Colony, when Black Rep taught him, that's where it kind of started Softline.
It's really interesting seeing how this whole clothing texture community kind of has its own reputation with different people. Like, before I even knew Will, which was like last week, I remember hearing people talk about how much they wanted him to release a pack because they liked his assets, and I didn't even know who he was, but I wanted him to release one.
I mean, I did, but I had to take it down because we weren't doing bad stuff.
I've released a single pack, and I've only released asset bundles and stuff.
I've released 32 packs since 2014.
32?
I have.
Yeah, 32. That's not including half packs.
I forget, yeah, because you make assets for every single outfit, so you must have a lot.
Well, even before then, like when I wasn't drawing assets really early on, it was the competition wasn't about how good your clothes were. It was about how many assets, how big your folder was.
Really?
So you'd be like, oh, hey, I have 8 gigabytes worth of assets. I have 10. I have 12. I think at one point I had 14 gigabytes worth of assets.
Sounds like
anywhere from
ATF.
2007 to 2016. And then I just started downsizing. Itmatab and I were really big parts in what got asset packs to be a big thing. Really? Because when I started sending them out, he started sending them out, and then they started spreading around the community. Before then, like I said, when we first started talking, really tiny asset packs. 30, 40 assets max, and they were old as shit. Things that you could hardly use anymore.
I think the first asset pack I got was the Reds asset pack, and it was like 3 jackets, 2 shirts, and like 3 webbing assets. Like all of them extremely old. They're all outdated.
My first asset pack was the Corsair asset pack with 3 pix armbands and quickly JPEG made patches.
My first asset pack had those fucking metal arms from old 2008 clothing items.
My second pack was the infamous Update 32.
Oh yeah.
I will forever love that pack.
I recall actually looking at one of Vaporwave's collections, and right at the top, and I quote, "If you don't like color coding, get fucked."
I made that like intentionally super aggravating to uncolor code because it had stuff that the only useful things were the patches, which were already pre-colored. So I gave people my division stuff. I gave people a battery box and some gloves. It was just the most random shit I could put together in a pack, but it looks good. I think I can find it.
You see, what I did for the color coding for that is I just used Will's color coding key.
Yeah, Will's color
Okay.
coding key is his savior.
I just color code however I feel, and I shade whatever I need to because I don't follow a specific code. It's Will's assets that I use.
I can't use one of Will's assets without pulling up the color coding key because, I mean, he has like,
All my assets are color
Yeah.
coded.
The thing to do is make a copy of every asset you have in shaded form and color coded form.
knowledge.
That's what I do. It's well, at least with the ones I make personally, it's easier to hand out the shaded version to people, and if people want to do edits or anything to it, then you give them the color coded version.
Our next question: Do you have any suggestions or advice for incoming and novice clothing makers, or for Wlgwalkers? Would it be
Steal
texture
outfits,
makers?
but don't tell anybody until you get good enough to not steal outfits.
Steal outfits very obviously so we can catch you.
You have any real advice?
I mean, okay, so like,
No, that was real advice. That's the only way you can get really good
Nah.
is if you copy other people.
Start by getting an asset pack and editing existing older assets and developing a way to edit things so that you aren't lost when you don't have resources.
Are we talking specifically asset making or full outfit making?
Anything you
I
want, man.
think asset making has to do with you actually have to know how to make outfits first.
Don't get too stressed when you first start. I know so many people who have gotten into it and just given up within like the first few days of it because they didn't understand at first. You need to find a program that you're comfortable with and that you can pretty much learn as you work through it. You got to experiment first. Everybody's going to have outfits that they hate, and everybody's going to have outfits that aren't good. I have plenty, and I have about 300 outfits that I've just never used that I've just made for fun just to get better. So you got to keep working to it and just have fun with it. Don't think too hard.
yeah,
If you want to make money from it, then work from your heart and work like you know that there's a future in it here.
experimenting with outfits is probably one of the best things to do because both it's honestly fun because you can just figure out what works and what doesn't, and it also helps you get better.
My current issue personally, don't stick too close to one. Like, let me just start with, recently I've noticed that there's been a lot of changing in everything asset wise. Like, everything's slowly progressing right now. I don't know if any of you have noticed that, but with different assets and different people, our styles are changing fairly quick. Like, I've completely changed how I draw jackets and everything, and how I draw pretty much everything since, like, from about a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. Just because, like, don't be afraid to change your style. Don't be afraid to evolve. Don't be afraid to let everything just move on and evolve with everybody else and people's tastes.
This might be more controversial, but don't do it unless you think that you will enjoy it. Don't do it because you see it as something that people are doing as a fad, and don't do it because you want money. Because you'll never be able to accomplish things that way. Do it because you want to do it.
Exactly, yeah.
Like I said earlier, I'm not in this for the money. I've made money from it, but that used to be
That's why Gabs failed.
That's why I left AAA. I was in it for the money at first, but then I realized that I wasn't happy and I wanted to do my own thing. And I feel like if I didn't leave, nothing against AAA, but I just wasn't productive there and I wasn't giving them like the work ethic that they needed and deserved from an employee.
Yeah, I've honestly been enjoying working for AA. do I get to see things that I like making getting out to more people. I get to actually make something from it and be able to have like a sustainable amount of Robux from it, and it's all just I enjoy it. It's fun to just be able to make stuff and have people see it for once instead of just having a small niche of people to see it. Yeah.
I only have about 20 people in my group and 100 people in the Discord for my clothing group. And it's really nice getting sales from outside of the roleplay community and stuff, because I've gotten a good few in group members. But, like, I still make the sales even though I don't have many group members. Don't let group members determine your sales. Because people still buy clothes when you may have, like, only a handful of group members. Because clothes aren't just listed on your group. You got the whole Roblox app, like, algorithm. You got random searches that people do on the catalog. Sometimes your clothes will pop up. You'll make those sales and you'll
Feel better.
Yeah.
My own like personal group only has like 200 something members, and we like my own personal group makes like a solid 1,000 Robux a month. So people are seeing that and they're buying it, but it's certainly a lot less than everything else. But it's still nice. Like I occasionally upload to my own personal group still, like I did just yesterday actually.
I have like 5.
Speaking of what you've uploaded, what do you just upload to AA?
Huh? Oh, So I was playing
Go
around with I was trying to see like, okay, I'm going to make this have color. And so I decided paint splatter.
Okay, I did like that outfit though. I personally I like the idea.
I agree. I actually think it's super unique, and honestly, I'm actually really happy that I saw it go up in the store. Because if you take a look,
Very creative.
The sad thing though is it's not unique. It was a CDA fad for a little bit where they had to have these paintball costumes.
Yeah.
I actually made one of those.
Yeah, yours was actually alright. I don't like the other people.
Did you draw that paint mark yourself? All those paint markings?
Yeah, I used a very certain blood PNG and just altered the colors and saturation.
That's actually pretty smart.
You
I like
should.
that idea.
The same way that blood PNG was drawn and the mud PNGs is that you use aliasing to your advantage. A lot of us remove aliasing from clothing. You use it to your advantage. That's how you get metalware. That's how you get mud. That's how you get sweat.
I just make mine with Gimp.
I use frosted.
Yeah, Gimp is a really good tool for it.
Yeah, I use Gimp to make like let me find the LRP one real quick.
Gimp is what I first started making clothes on, and then I moved to paint. Which
I
was
actually
transition.
I just started using Gimp. I was actually working with Will on a custom, and I told him, I'm like, these decals, they look always super solid. They just don't fit right. Because at first you think they're okay, those the faction decals that are always on the back of everyone's like trench coat for XYZ faction. And I was like, when you do your flak jacket backs, like you make them look like kind of drawn on. Like, how do I do that? And
Mike is about to post a flak jacket back.
Glass.
That leads us to our next question. Like, what softwares do you guys use to develop like your clothing?
Photoshop, baby! Adobe Photoshop 2020.
I use Paint.net, which is probably the most common one.
I use Paint.net, but I've used Photoshop and Gimp.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of contingent on what your operating software is. Like, if I had like a PC, I'd probably be using Paint.net, but because I make everything off of a MacBook, then yeah, I'm kind of like forced into using Photoshop, which is a great program.
I think I know like 2 people who use Fire Alpaca to make clothing, which is honestly pretty interesting.
I have no idea what that is, honestly.
I have heard of
It's
Fire
a
Alpaca.
paint program. Clearly, like I don't think it's meant for anything. It's meant as like a paint program, but they somehow make it look decent with clothing.
Define decent.
Decent, but well, first of all, the main person I know that uses it is pretty much a beginner, and they don't make clothing that often. But for that, their clothing isn't the worst it could be.
As long as you have a template and you have a program that can support the template in it, and you can draw on that template, then you can make clothes. Like
yeah.
Agreed. I don't know. I feel like, and that's one of those like insurmountable things for like new guys like that are trying to like they want to start making clothing because there's not exactly like you can probably look up a YouTube tutorial on like how to make clothing, but at the same time,
None of them are really good.
none of them are good, and
Yeah.
you're gonna end up just being
It's gonna
screwed.
be a very controversial thing, but I've for the past like year I've been thinking of doing like the drawn clothing that's using paintbrushes and stuff and accenting.
No, go for it.
I-
Do it.
I could easily do it because I have the ability, and I have ties to a person who primarily
Traumatized.
does it, and I could easily work for her or like
Simp.
make my own group.
Oh no.
I personally use Krita for my textures.
Oh yeah. You Wlgwalker, don't you use? I thought you used Blender for texture making.
No, I'm not a fan
Oh.
of Blender at all. I sometimes
Blender's
use
terrible for
Blender for marking out spots on a texture, but I've never used it for definitively actually making the texture, and I don't think I will.
Yeah, Blender's not very easy to use.
I haven't used Blender at
When
all.
you learn Blender, it's extremely.
And why are you
useful.
talking?
You can make clothing in 3D with Blender.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you can simulate a Roblox avatar in Blender and then draw on the clothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds wild.
I prefer personally Maya. If any of you know what Maya is,
Yeah, I used to have Maya.
that's what I learned on first, and
Oh,
I use Blender. I've used it before, but Maya is a lot easier for me, and I'm a sculptor, formerly from clothing. Like I used to do a lot of different prints and sculpts, and
I started with the FNAF edits.
meshes was I've always loved meshes.
Meshes are fun.
I could die to be a UGC creator.
So
Up there with the greats.
how do you guys feel about the differences and the whole the argument battles between softline and hardline?
It's stupid. I've met a lot of nice softline people like Skaven.
Yeah, like I
Skaven Blight.
softline myself. I think all of us have made softline in here at least once.
Actually,
No.
I
Yeah, I
haven't.
just posted softline.
I haven't made Softline. I think I'm the only person here who hasn't.
No, I can promise you, it's also me. I don't know. There's just something that just I look at Softline, and I think mostly because it's just personal preference, and that kind of goes back to what Skelethon was saying in the very beginning. It's a style choice, and that's
Yeah, definitely.
how you get people that like people saying like ew Softline or ew Hardline. It's because they just have a set like preconception of this is good and this is bad, and
Well, I
personally,
also have learned, like, the toxic softline people.
yes,
There's a lot of them.
they exist. They're very real.
That's been a part of their
The
culture.
people who actually are, it's like the people that make softline, like Skaven, they know those people and they don't like them either.
See, with Softline though, Softline isn't just roleplay. Softline is a lot of things outside of ATF. Softline is war groups,
Yeah.
different games, different just stores. It's not just roleplay. Clothing like Hardline and stuff has been very universal recently. Like Louis made UGC clothes for
Yeah, I think he's the first UGC creator that made Hardline.
yeah.
Or UGC clothing creator, I should say.
Yeah. So I think we're going in a good direction.
Hardline's been around
Yeah.
outside of roleplay for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's just that the same style wasn't.
It's just
Yeah.
stupid
So I got
compared to few picks and stuff lines.
All those neo softliners that are like really toxic about their clothing, that comes from a specific sect that spawned around ATF and roleplay groups.
I got
They
another.
spread to war groups through people like Louis and Finn and Black Rep, who are a lot more enterprising about what they're doing. But those that still stuck around and saw more of the brunt of development and roleplay, they ended up just being toxic people because that's what they grew around. That community is very
Yeah.
competitive, not only between each other, but between other outside communities.
I have
Sad to see.
unpopular opinion. Some 4-pixel and like high pixel assets and outfits, I kind of like still, and
Yeah,
like
honestly.
Highpixel, like Minecraft
Like-
Highpixel?
4-pixel, like maybe like a full outfit, because we have a lot of cartoony hats now in different.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like there could be a resurgence of using some weird lines and outfits and stuff if you do it the right way. Because those would be good sellers.
There's definitely a comeback of like Blotnik in the last few years.
Blotnik is
UGC.
Yeah, I've literally used an old Blotnik outfit in Firelands before. It genuinely works. It doesn't look too out of place either.
The person
Yeah.
who made me want to make clothes, essentially. He's
No,
the
that's
people
a
I bought
genre.
only from.
Firelands Clothes, like I'll be honest, I actually do have a lot of respect for people who make clothes for Firelands,
Yeah,
especially the
same.
chainmail and night armor. It's not something I've attempted. I did attempt to make a Firelands custom back when I was still semi learning, but I was kind of making a lot of progress. I probably spent a couple hours trying to figure out how to make this Fireland custom, and then I eventually just DM'd the guy, and I'm like, yeah, this is not happening. I'll go to someone else. Also, not to call back to the old softline hardline debate, but if you check guest chat, I just posted a few screenshots from the Sphinx the group wall of a bunch of people that just like shitting on hardline, and
Oh,
it's
correct.
you get these people that just don't understand that hardline or softline. It goes vice versa. It goes both ways. But like that don't understand that there are multiple ways to do clothing, and all of them can be right or they can be wrong. It just depends on if you do it correctly or not.
That's one thing about my group that I've not seen is like anybody not liking it, which is surprising.
Yeah.
I make a lot of stuff for myself, including this, which I'm still proud of. This is my best armor so far.
Not gonna lie, I think Lakes is a little bit
It is,
better.
but mine's
Sorry to say.
meant for a female, and it kind of just didn't work the right way.
I see you using my same patterns that I use on my armor. I see you doing that.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
Skelethon, you've made a lot of Firelands clothing, right?
Medieval
Back in
in general. It's what I when that whole clothing genre first started, it was just really bad edits of older assets thrown onto something that didn't work. And
Yeah.
Bill and I were some of the first people to really develop clothing and assets there. And it's nice to see now that there's a lot more innovation going on. There's still only a handful of creators that don't rely on asset packs, but those that are, they're doing better.
Bill's recent stuff looks so fucking good. Like
It's 'cause Bill and I
Is
push
it
each
bad
other.
I don't know who Bill is?
Bill is like your granddad.
he is grandfather.
Oh, the father Bill guy?
Yeah.
He his stuff is just it's
No, I think Lake's my grandfather. I'm sorry to say. I'm not related to you, Skelly.
You're
Uh,
related, bro.
Bill is just he's always been after Blotnik when I first started role playing again, like back in since I started it during Sandstorm and I got back during Rain. His stuff and Skelly's stuff is just basically what got me going.
Bill and I have a very
I
friendly
exist.
competition where we loathe each other each time we make a better outfit than the other.
Haven't you and Magdump had competition?
What's friendly about that?
I don't know. I hardly. If you say Magnump, I don't know who it is. I'd have to know their previous names.
What about Mario?
I mean, me
Mario,
Mario, man.
like from Sphinx.
Yeah.
No, Mario and I have been like different genres, so we never really had a chance to compete. I've always respected him, though. That was something I was gonna say to Vigilant when he was talking about the debate between softliners and hardliners on the Sphinx wall. Sphinx, a long time ago, maybe, what is it, 5 years ago? 5 or 4 years ago, rather. There were a lot of softliners who had a problem with Sphinx because they were still two-pixing. They were a different style of hardline in tactical clothing, where softline was considered the better genre then. So
I think it was definitely dumb.
they had a lot of battles back then. So it's not surprising to see that.
Having gone back and looked, like you can see it's still on. I think a lot of it's still in the Sphinx store. You can see like the old 2-pick stuff that was put out, and it's kind of fun to like see the
There's a-
progress along with every group.
This kind of goes along the lines of Sphinx back then. Do any of you know the group Kestrel?
Oh, Kestrel fell off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kestrel did what Sphinx kind of did, and they had the PDAs and stuff. They had their time, and I have like about a majority of their outfits, and I loved it then, and I stayed true to the hard line. And
Kestrel and 5.56.
What? What's that? What?
I think
No.
Foxhound too. Foxhound's another one of those groups that
Foxhound, yeah.
they've had a resurgence doing casual clothing, but when they did
Yeah.
tactical, they were good for a little bit and then started to fall off. A lot of those softline groups go like that, where they start off really strong, they have really talented creators, and then because of how competitive their nature is, they just start to fall off.
Something I love that Kestrel did, and that's chess PDAs and PDAs on legs and stuff, like unconventional placement for things. A PDA, depending on the character, would make sense on a leg. It would make sense on the chest. It just all depends. Just that's a different thing. I'm gonna fight that until death.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're a pilot, it shouldn't be on your shoulder.
Or multiple
Meaning
PDAs.
that if you're listening, you don't put a pilot's PDA on their shoulder, but on their leg.
I feel like Will's calling out someone very specific.
A PDA, one of the monitor PDAs that don't have a screen, like health monitor and heart monitor, vital monitor, whatever it is, on an upper arm, and using one on your wrist. Because those have different purposes. Because there's different PDAs that have different purposes. I've had a character with 3 at a time. It's excessive, but it was necessary for the character.
No one has 2.
I have 2
Well,
right now.
technically 1 isn't a PDA, it's a control panel, but
Yeah.
same difference.
My one character right now that I haven't used in a bit has one on his thigh and one on his upper arm.
Is he a driver or pilot?
He is a technical.
Same difference.
Yeah, a driver.
We're going to ask one last good question. And I want to ask each and every one of you, has there ever been a time where clothing was so challenging that you planned on quitting?
No, not
Certainly.
Last year.
I don't think I've ever actually thought about quitting.
Deadass. I did kind of semi give up. My Photoshop free trial ran out December of 2018. I'd made 3 outfits to my name. They were all very bad. Oh well, no, they were just arguably not good. Like they weren't like atrocious, but they weren't good. And I was like, maybe it's not for me. And then, yeah, so I quit for a couple months, because Photoshop is $20 a month, and I did not want to drop that money yet. I guess I semi-quit, and then I don't know. One day I was just like, screw it, let's give it another shot, and been going full steam ahead ever since.
It's a really cool redemption story.
The redemption story of me going from yes I'm shit to maybe I can be not shit with a little bit of help.
Yeah,
My redemption story starts
I've
off.
taken extended breaks before, but I've never outright quit.
I think the longest break I took was kind of recently before I started my own group. I stopped making outfits for a while.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Vid, you've definitely improved a lot, especially since you joined AA. Like, your time test outfit was
Bad shit. Arguably, I looked at that and I was like, this is the best I could do. I was so distraught when I submitted that. I was like, how did I fucking make this? With a little help and pixie dust. It worked. Eventually. Eventually we got there.
Nice.
Well, Vig, this is actually your second podcast, so I'm giving you the double trouble roll. And thank you, everybody.
Let's go.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. It's been a very fun episode. And make sure to check out whatever these guys send us in DMs in the description below, and tune in for the next episode.
Go to
of Wastelander.
gamersups.gg.
You delete the thing.
Goodbye, everybody.